Hey, can you hear me well? Great, great seeing you all here. Thanks for the warm welcome. It's an awesome audience. It's a big honor to be here at Bitcoin Wednesday. So my name is Ron Reichman, CEO of Snip. And in my hopefully short talk, I'll tell you a bit about the news industry, why blockchain is poised to disrupt this industry, and how Snip works in the middle of that. And I'd gladly interact and get your questions, because that'll make it so much more interesting. And we have a very exciting demo set up for the middle of the talk, where we'll actually show how we're integrating blockchain technology in our platform. And we'll be doing like a live tipping, so that'll be cool. And we'll reach that in a second. So like a few words about us. Like Rick said, I have a background in software development and cybersecurity. I was about 8 years in Israeli intelligence, finished as a major. And my partner, Rani, who's the CTO of the company, he's a machine learning expert, also many years in the Israeli research and development community. And we also have a marketing lead who's working with us. We're quite a small team, but getting a lot done. So into the topic, the news industry. A short background. Historically, news was a monopoly. Like the distribution of news and the writing of news was limited to a small number of national corporations and a small number of local corporations. And these were companies that decided what people read and what people generally thought. And owning the printing press was enough to be the one who spread the information. And this was the case for quite a long time. And monetization worked very well. News organizations were able to monetize both with subscriptions and advertising. I don't know how many of you recognize this nice rack on the left, but once that made a whole lot of money. And in addition, once you bought the newspaper, you saw these nice advertisements, which brought even more revenue for the news companies. And we're talking about tens of billions of dollars in revenue in previous decades, up until the internet. Maybe you've heard of that. It started with platforms like GeoCities on Yahoo, continued with WordPress, Facebook, also Medium. It became easier and easier to distribute your information online to anyone. And that's been a huge revolution, obviously. Very, very damaging to the news industry. And we saw this a few seconds ago. Subscriptions, people are now surfing for free. Generally speaking, not paying for news online. And advertising has become more and more difficult. If you want to advertise online, you're competing with Facebook and Google, who are very successful in targeting ads to users. And it's very hard to compete. It's become very difficult. What you see in this pie chart here on the right is that 99% of the growth in the ad industry is going to Facebook and Google. So it's very, very hard for news organizations to monetize. And the publishers are fighting back. We still have mainstream publishers. And how are they doing that? Paywalls. So there are paywalls. Paywalls is actually right. I mean, there's a lot of paywalls. But that's only for the elite of the industry. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, The Economist, they're allowing themselves to charge money for their content. But it's obviously, most people are not paying for that. Fake news. So fake news is an interesting answer. Entertainment, things that are funny, exciting, clickbait. Asteroid could be able to wipe out life on Earth, news like that. And these are mainstream news sites who are adding this content to lure people into their platforms, because they know it's becoming very, very hard. People spending time on Facebook, on Twitter, on Snapchat, and whatever, and it's very hard to reach their websites. And they're also using this very popular technique, which is listicles. 8 reasons why, and even there are listicles of listicles. So it's like 8 of the best lists you have. And these are, like, it's funny, but these are actually quite successful. Like, the news industry has been pivoting more and more towards entertainment and towards like easily created content, which is cheap, and it's working in some sense. Another thing that they're doing is using as many ads as possible. Like in this example here, an article will be, once they are able to attract you to their website and to read their content, they'll be putting as many ads as possible to maximize ad revenue. And that creates a bad experience. It takes bandwidth. There are things like popping on your screen. This isn't even the worst that can happen when you're entering a website. Many times on mobile, you can't even see the content. So this is becoming more and more. And the content is actually becoming longer, which isn't necessarily intuitive. The content is longer because the more text there is, the more ad space you can sell, the more money you gain. And news organizations are actually making their stories longer and longer over time. And this creates a really bad user experience. I think probably all of you have experienced this online. And what we're doing at Snip is building a new model for this industry using the blockchain. And in the next few minutes, I'll explain and show what we're doing. So in Snip, the idea is to provide you with the news you actually care about in a short and concise format. So, and the vision is to build the future of news on the blockchain, meaning apply blockchain technology to actually create a new business model for news and allow great news content to be monetized, which isn't possible today. Today, if you're a writer online, you have basically no way to earn money. So how does this look like? We'll actually enter our website in a few seconds, but this is generally the idea. Various topics between blockchain, education, business, whatever. A headline which actually tells you what the story is about, and a short article. I'll show you that in a second, with like 2-3 paragraphs which actually explain what's going on. Our goal is to answer the question, what's the deal with? Like you hear about something that's happening, or you haven't even heard about something, and we tell you, hey, this is the story, and this is why it's interesting. And in our case, short isn't equivalent, short comes with high quality. It's like if you asked a friend what's going on with this story, you'd prefer to get the 3-paragraph answer and not the 15-paragraph answer or the 2,000-word answer. So that's our solution. And underlying this platform is Snipcoin. And this is the token of the Snip platform. And the token both allows advertisers to buy ad space and allows users to tip writers and buy premium services. So this is the demand side. This is what creates demand for the token. And writers are rewarded for awesome snips. So this creates this virtuous cycle where the more readers there are, the more income comes to the writers, the more great content is published on the platform. And the idea is that the Snipcoin allows it to constantly grow, and the revenue goes to the writers, which is a very important change in the industry. Like today, you aren't as a writer, you're not necessarily rewarded based on metrics like high quality content, but more on the length of your article or were you able to attract people to view the ad space. So this is a big shift in the industry. And we're building this on the blockchain. I talked about the ERC20 token. We're also using smart contracts to reward writers in specific ways. For instance, we want writers to hold tokens for a longer period, so we'll be rewarding them extra if they hold Snipcoin for a while and don't sell it quickly. And we're making our content available on IPFS, which means that anyone can read it everywhere. The content will not be centralized on the Snip website. We'll be offering a great way to consume this content, but you'll be able to see it anywhere. And that makes it also uncensorable, because on Snip, a centralized website is obviously subject to some censorship, and IPFS allows to avoid that. And this is a new approach, both the decentralization, a transparent platform. Our algorithms will be are posted open source. You can actually enter our GitHub and see how our site is built and what the code looks like. We're rewarding the writers. We'll be promoting diverse content, and it's in a concise way. So it's not like some visionary aspiration that you will make users love long content, but we'll create content which is both high quality and something users can love. Our product is live. We started Snip about a year and a half ago, and we've been gaining users ever since. We have more than 25,000 active users and 1,400 paying subscribers who are like monthly or yearly paying for the product, which is pretty unique. And like this is our GitHub, which was just recently published. We've been working on it behind the scenes for a while, but now it was publicly published. And I'd like to show you how that actually looks like on the platform. So this is the Snip website. I'll make it a bit larger. And the idea is like, these are the stories. And as you can see, I hope you can see, there's this is a story, like 3 paragraphs that explains about Tesla's new electric truck. And if you like the story, you can tip the author. And you'll be able to tip with Snipcoin. Currently, Snipcoin isn't live, so we'll be, like this demo is with Ethereum, but the mechanism is basically the same. So, so if I want to tip the author, I can just like send to his address, his or her address, if I want to. But I can also publish it here. Yeah, it's funny that it's like the private key. But we found that it's actually better than us hosting the user's content. Like eventually you have to, if you want to transfer Snip coins to someone, you have to in some way open it. As you can see in the GitHub, whoever's interested, this is only on the client side. Like the private key is never shared with the Snip server. And it's blocked here. And you can decide how much you want to tip and just transfer it. And you can also control the transaction details. That's like, you can like open this down here and decide on a different price. We found that 4 gigaway is great. It works well. And that's also like the Ethereum recommendation. Yeah?
How do you prevent people from copying and pasting stories they get from other sources into your platform?
So that's actually a great question. I'll repeat it. The question was, how will we avoid people copying content from other sources onto our platform? And actually, in text, that's a pretty, like, that problem has been solved, generally speaking, like finding text and finding text which is similar to other text. We've been, for more than a year and a half, been crawling the internet at a very high resolution, like news websites, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. So we have a lot of data on what's going on online, and we're still collecting that data. And if we find content that is copied, we not only don't allow to publish it, but punish writers who do that. So I'll just send, yeah.
You say this is Ethereum, the transaction fees are too high. Are you using your own blockchain?
No, we're not planning on using our own blockchain. Yeah.
Transaction fees are huge.
Yeah, so actually, if you're not limited to time, transaction fees today are reasonable. Like if you use 4 instead of 21 gigaway, it's less than 10 cents currently. We can look at that. I'll just like send the transaction, and then we'll view it. But it's supposed to be it takes about like a minute for Etherscan to kick in. But one of Snip's bets is that Ethereum scaling will improve over time. We strongly believe that will happen, because if there are millions of users who are constantly tipping and consuming services, we'll need a more robust blockchain. But we believe that's coming. Like there's so much work on that, so we're optimistic. Yeah.
There's Metropolis release coming with Ethereum, so micropayments are a better way of doing it right now. But my main question is, what differs you from Steem or Steem that already exists?
Yeah, so the question was, what differentiates Snip from Steem? And that's a question we get a lot. The main difference, and it's an important one, is that Snip is a news platform. We're focused on news. I can do like a poll here. I guess nobody uses Steemit as their main news source. It's more of a social platform or a blogging platform. And you can check out like the site snip.today, and you'll see that it's very news oriented. It's like what's going on currently in the world on any subject. So we think that like we're big fans of Steam. We think that like they can both coexist.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, this looks like an elegant and simple approach. I'm wondering what's the precise added value of including smart contracts here? Because what you just showed is basically just one transaction. Could you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the basic use cases of the platform will not require smart contracts. The question, by the way, was why do we need smart contracts on a platform? Because it's a pretty straightforward use case. So the basic use cases will not require smart contracts. We will want to reward writers, and also readers. Like we want to say, if you hold your tokens over time, then you'll be rewarded. That's like one use of a smart contract. And we don't want to we don't want you to have to trust us. We want you to get these tokens automatically after 3 months or 6 months or whatever. We really want, this is important for us. We really want our users to be inside the ecosystem and use their tokens in the ecosystem and provide them more and more valuable services. So wait, I'll just refresh this. So what we're seeing here is the tipping transaction. And so we gave here 34 cents of a tip. And it's still too large. The transaction fee is still 3 cents, which is a shame. Because it's 10%, and 10% is a high transaction fee. But it's it's still reasonable. It's something that can work. And 30 cent tip is a reasonable amount. Yeah.
This project, just had a few questions. Have you automated the process of the articles being published? First of all, why did you particularly need your own token or not use another particular, open it up to other tokens and that possibility? Unless you had your own blockchain or the content was actually recorded on the blockchain or the hash of the content or whatever term you want to view it, that would make a bit more sense to me. So I'm just curious as the model and why you chose this, and whether the approval of the articles are automated, and if they are, how do you introduce quality control in that sense?
Sure. So I'll start with the first question about the quality control. How do we make sure that you're actually reading great content? Because if anyone can publish content online, then inevitably there will be a lot of bad content. And we're using a lot of user feedback for that. I'll show you how it looks on the website. So there's a thumbs up mechanism and a thumbs down, and there's also ways to flag bad content. And even at the scale we're currently at, with tens of thousands of users, that works pretty well. You can see people, if enough people do thumbs up or thumbs down for a piece of content. We haven't done yet the flagging part, but we'll be adding that. And over time, with writer reputations and user feedback, we believe that the content will be very well vetted. And importantly, the algorithms which do the vetting will be open source. So it's not that the Snip centralized company will do the vetting, because that'll cause infinite number of problems. But we'll present the algorithms, and people will be able to choose if they want to use them or not. Regarding the second question was why do we need a token for this platform? Why not use Bitcoin or Ethereum or even fiat? So the reason is that the token is it's the slide that I just presented here, is that the more if we want to reward writers more as the platform grows, then there has to be a token related to that. Because if we'd use Ethereum, then there's no real correlation between the price of Ethereum and the success of the Snip platform. Because Ethereum is a $30 billion token, and we're still not there. So once we use the token inside this ecosystem, then the more people actually use the platform, the more we'll be able to reward writers. And that was our thinking in using our own token. Yeah?
So get around
button. You can tip whoever you want. And at the end of the day, you bundle all the tips from one user and all the tips to the user, and then send it back.
Yeah, so the question was, did we consider building a sidechain where people tip and then once a day or once whatever, passing it on to the main chain? Yeah, the answer is yes. Like, that's something that we're actively studying. It's a bit of a trade-off between like how centralized that tipping is, because like there's something cool about being able to tip someone directly without even like Snip managing the process. But yeah, we're focused on creating a great experience for users and writers, and if that's what it takes, then we'll add additional features to allow that.
Okay, I have one question. You just showed a story about Tesla, electric truck. I saw that story this morning. It's a Wall Street Journal story. It came via me via Twitter with some smart content comments. But I just wondered, so if I see the same story now via you, I see that. Are you re-editing? I mean, Wall Street Journal hiring the best journalists. It was a scoop. It may be true. It may not be true. But so I got it for free. I got it from friends who also. And now I saw more than you can read for free at Wall Street Journal. So are you paying the Wall Street Journal? How does it work?
Okay, yeah, so that's a great question.
Why I'm getting it now, and now I see, is an oligarch writing that? Are you hiring expensive journalists? I mean, how does it work?
Okay, so I'll repeat the question. I'll also it'll make sure that I'll make sure that I understood the question. How if a news outlet is paying its journalists for this content, and we're using this content, how is the newspaper paid or the news outlet paid? Yeah, so actually, this appears also in our white paper. In each time, like each writer, when they write about a specific topic, then they say the sources that they got it from. And this is important generally speaking. Like, how do you know what you're reading is true? What you're reading is actually like valid, is true? How do you know like what this content is based on? And this allows it. Like this, if people publish their sources, if writers say, I got this from this, this, and that, then that provides this like extra validation. And according to what those writers base their content on, we're giving some of the revenue to the news outlets. So every time we reward a writer, we're giving at least 10% to the original journalism from the news outlet.
And the Wall Street Journal has already agreed with your business model.
Well, it's interesting. The question was, did the Wall Street Journal already agree, or equivalent news outlets? Today, what happens in the news industry, and it's unfortunate, is that there are aggregators who are collecting content from various sites online, and they're not paying any royalties. They're just like taking the content and they say, hey, Wall Street Journal wrote, and then they just write whatever they want. We think that's not sustainable over time. So even though we could just say, hey, it's legal to take the content and quote it, we actually want to share the revenue with the news outlets. And yeah, when we say, hey, take these $10,000 or $50,000, then yeah, I think they'll cooperate. I mean, it's not a big ask from them.
And then the last question, and then I won't bother you. I read 100 stories a day, yeah, minimum. So if I use your products, I have to tip 100 times a day, or maybe say 50% I tip. I mean, I use 20-30% of my time just tipping. I'm thinking about, should I tip him or her? So yeah, have you thought about that?
The question was, if someone reads too much, won't it be too much tipping? If you really value what you're reading, then that's great, and maybe you'll want to like tip easily. I think what will actually happen though is that most of the content you read will be like, okay, that was cool, and few of the stories will be, oh wow, that was really insightful, and then you'll tip, and it will be like much easier than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I think we'll do 2 more questions, because it's great to have a discussion. We've got 6 more guests coming after this.
Let's finish the story.
Yeah, actually, why don't we hold, because you need
Oh yeah, I have like 2 more slides, so I'll finish that, and then we'll get the last question. And I'll also be here later, so I'm like available for any questions you may have. So like I said, our platform is live. You can like access snip.today and check it out. And even before, we're having a token sale in about 3 weeks, September 29. It's starting. We're currently in the pre-sale stage, going well, raised over $2 million out of the $8 million of the cap. So, we're launching even before the sale. We're launching an audio snip service where you can like listen on the go to the most interesting news stories that you care about. And in January, we plan to already integrate the token inside the platform, like replace the Ethereum part here with a Snipcoin part, where people who have the token can actually use it on the platform. And that's our goal, like having people constantly using Snipcoin on the Snip platform and adding more and more services to them. And if you have more questions, I think there's room for like one more right now. And you can check out snip.network and catch me later. I'm available here. Yeah.
So your platform is open to everyone, right? So anyone can be a writer and reader, right?
Yeah, so the question was, is the platform open for everyone? Like, can anyone be a reader or a writer? So the answer is yes. The idea is to be open for everyone. Readers will be open from day one. Writers, we're starting with a vetting process. Like we're becoming less and less centralized over time. Because on day one, you can't have just everyone writing. It has to be an evolving process. But the goal is to be like use the YouTube format, where like everyone can just like upload a news story and we'll provide them with distribution and revenue, etc. That won't happen on day one. That'll take some time to build because we want to do it well. We want the reader experience to always be like very high quality. So that's.
But then let's say we are all writers, and today some Tesla announces something. We all want to write about Tesla.
Yeah. Okay.
How
So,
do you show this to the readers?
yeah. So the question was, how do we help writers not like choose their topics well, or make sure that not everyone's writing about the same thing? That's actually something that we've been working on internally for about a year on how to find the best stories online. Like I told you that we were constantly collecting data from various social networks and news sites. So we have a very good understanding about what are the big stories online and what's about to be an important story online. And we have a recommendation engine that we're opening to writers. So we'll be telling you, hey, you can write about whatever you want, but this is a good story to write about that other people aren't yet writing about. So we'll actually help you choose the best stories. You can write about whatever you want, but it can be very competitive. Like being the 100th person to write about a specific topic is probably less lucrative as a writer. But if we tell you, hey, this is a great story that nobody's writing about yet, then that'll be very valuable for you.
Then aren't you the one who decides what we read?
No, writers can write about whatever you want. We'll just like offer you, like say, hey, if you like, our users will probably like this. It's a recommendation engine, but it's not like, this isn't a decision what will be on the platform. It'll be like, these are things that are going online, and it'll also be open source. It'll show you like, hey, this is based on this, based on that, based on that.
Okay, guys, to keep the time and track, thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.